In this lesson, we are going to complete a two-way frequency table, and we're also going to complete and be able to read a Venn diagram. A two-way frequency table is used to show frequency of data by organizing it into two different categories. Here's an example. A group of students were asked if they have a cell phone and a tablet. Of the 200 students surveyed, 160 had a cell phone. There were 68 that had a tablet, and of those 57 had a cell phone. So, let's fill in our two-way frequency table. First of all, there were 68 students that had a tablet, and of those 57 had a cell phone. That means 57 students had a cell phone and a tablet. So we're going to put that in this column, or in this box right here. 57 students had both. Which means of the 68, if 57 of them had a cell phone, then when we subtract, that means 11 of them did not have a cell phone, for a total of 68 students that had a tablet. Then we're going to talk about the students that have a cell phone. There were 160 total students that had a cell phone, so we're going to put that down here. 160 total students had a cell phone. Which means that if 57 of them had a tablet, that would mean 103 of them would not have a tablet. Please recall from the very beginning that our total number of students is 200. That would mean that if the total is 200, then there would be 40 of students left in this column. And if 11 of those students did not have a cell phone, that would mean also that 29 did not have a tablet. And then when I add these two together, 103 and 29, the total number of students that did not have a tablet would be 132 students. We can also show this in a Venn diagram. We can show that there were 200 students surveyed. 160 of them had a cell phone. There were 68 that had a tablet. And of those that had a tablet, 57 also had a cell phone. That means there were 57 students in all that both had a cell phone and a tablet. Now there were 68 that had a tablet, but 57 of those had a cell phone, so there would be 11 students left that had only a tablet. And then, when there were 160 students that had a cell phone, if I were to subtract the 57 that already had a tablet, that means 103 of those students only had a cell phone. And if I were to add these together, which we did, and then subtract, there would tell me that there were 29 students that had neither a cell phone nor a tablet. And that's the way that we can use common sense to construct a two-way frequency table and also to construct a Venn diagram. We can also use our two-way frequency tables to calculate percentages in the table, and that is called relative frequency. So here is the table that we constructed earlier. I would like to find the relative frequency based on the total number of students. So please recall that the total number of students is 200 students. Okay? So 200 students. So in order to find the relative frequency of each of these categories based on the total number of students, what we would do is take each box in our two-way frequency table and divide by 200. For example, in the first box we have 57 students who had a cell phone and a tablet. So what we would do is take 57 divided by the total, which is 200. We would get a decimal of 0.285, and then remember, in order to convert a decimal to a percent, we move the decimal 2 places to the right, giving us 28.5%. Now let's calculate how many of those students who have a tablet but do not have a cell phone. That is 11 students. So we would take 11 divided by the 200, and that would give us 5.5%. If we were to take the total amount of students that had tablets and divide it by the total number of students surveyed, 68 divided by 200, that would give us 0.34, which is 34%. I think you're getting the idea of how to calculate relative frequency based on the total number of students. Let's do a couple of more. If the students did not have a tablet, that was 103. We would take 103 and divide that by 200. That would give us 0.515, which we would convert to a percent as 51.5%. Let's move on to another example. What if instead I wanted to find the relative frequency based off of the rows? Now if you take a look back, the total number in our top row was 68 students who had a tablet. So we are going to divide by 68. So we have 57 students who have a tablet and a cell phone. Divide by 68. That meant 84% of those total 68 students have a tablet and a cell phone. How about the ones that didn't have a cell phone? We would take our 11 divided by 68 because that was the total number of students in this particular row, and when we divide we would get 16%. Now here's what's interesting, and you can double check. Since we're dividing by the total number of students in the row, when we are finished, the percentages of students in that particular row should be 100% of that row. What if I want to base it on the column? Well, let's take a look back. In the first column, there were 160 total students who had cell phones. So, this number would be based off 160 students. So what I would do is take the 57 students who had a cell phone and a tablet and divide that by 160. That would give me a relative frequency of 36%. Then I could divide the total number of students that had a cell phone but did not have a tablet, 103 by 160, and that leaves me with 64%. So finding the relative frequency based on the columns is simply taking this particular amount of data divided by the column number and finding our percent. And again, once we're done with the entire column, those percents should have a sum of 100%. So, to review, we can construct a two-way frequency table, which is used to show the data and categorizing it into two different categories. We can find relative frequency, which is a percent that describes our data by either dividing by the total amount of people or items surveyed, or we can find the percent based off of rows or based off of columns. Please remember to complete the reflection.